Welcome back to Alice Talks Football and welcome back to another live Manchester United news, transfer news and takeover news show and just general Manchester United talk show with you guys. There's a big storm where I am that's like lightning and thunder all over me at the moment, so I hopefully won't cut out or anything like that. So if that happens, yeah, I apologise. Hopefully you don't lose connection or something. So the Wi-Fi could be a bit iffy. But I want to talk about the takeover news. Obviously, today is meant to be the week, or not today, this week is meant to kind of be the week where the preferred bidder emerges, etc., etc. Alex Turk of The Express came out today and did a report, and it was also said by a few other reports that, again, it's not come from anyone tier one, it's not come from anyone top level reliable. I'm going to stress that. But a news coming out today that Qatar actually the Glazers' preferred option, and Qatar likely to be the Glazers' preferred option, and they want the full sale, etc., etc. We will get into that. As I say with the takeover news, we get so many different stories from so many different sources. You know, I can't tell you who to believe and who not to believe at this rate. But this is one of 3 or 4 outlets saying in recent time that, you know, Qatar is now the preferred bidder. However, we did get that big bulk of British media saying Sir Jim Ratcliffes is the biggest bidder as well. It's annoying with the takeover because I will get into the article that Qatar are emerging as the preferred bidder and talk about what it says. But again, it's not like it's Roman or Ornstein or loads of people flooding out being like, yes, Qatar's the preferred bidder. It's Qatar's expected to be the preferred bidder because blah, 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 blah. Now, as well as that, we will dive into that in a second. There is news coming out on Goncalo Ramos. Now, I've always said this. I've always said that to you guys, keep an eye on Goncalo Ramos to Manchester United. We were heavily linked to him in January. Ten Hag wanted to bring him in January, but obviously he'd be 70 million, so we couldn't quite afford that price tag. Now, I've always said this. Harry Kane is Ten Hag's first choice target. Victor Osimhen and Harry Kane are the 2 first choice targets, but Harry Kane is more so that first choice for Ten Hag, beating Victor Osimhen. Now, Victor Osimhen is 130 million pounds. Harry Kane's looking at 100 million pounds. United don't really want to have to deal with Daniel leaving all the problems with Kane. I think if Kane decides to stay at Tottenham, or if Kane doesn't push for that United move, or Daniel Levy goes complicated, I think United turn their focus to Goncalo Ramos. Now, we know that United have been exploring Kane, and if it's realistic to get Kane, they've had initial talks with what it would take for them to get Kane, etc., etc. And they are doing the groundwork on Kane, but they can't do anything until the takeover is sorted. But I've always said, keep an eye on Goncalo Ramos. We scouted this guy, we've wanted this guy, we've been linked to this guy since last summer. He's 22, is he 22? He's 70 million pounds, so he's 30 million cheaper than Kane, 60 million cheaper than Osimhen. He's very young and he's a player that Ten Hag likes, and he is a very good player. I've always said this, and obviously reports coming out today saying it's true. Manchester United are set to hold talks with Benfica about Goncalo Ramos, but the interesting report that came out today actually came out from James Nursey, and he said that Manchester United are preparing to step up their interest in Goncalo Ramos with a potential record bid as part of a summer rebuild. And it said a deal worth around 70 million, but maybe up until 100 million, which could include add-ons, is poised to be discussed between United and Benfica for Goncalo Ramos. But it has been seen a 70 million deal for Goncalo Ramos could be enough for United to get it done, and United are actually preparing to step up their interest in him and potentially look at exploring a 70 million offer from Goncalo Ramos. And I think United's focus is on Kane, but I do think once the takeover is sorted, once everything's sorted, I think United are just keeping an eye on Goncalo Ramos. And I think if they cannot get Kane, I do think a 70 million bid on Goncalo Ramos is definitely something that I wouldn't be shocked if it happened as well. It's come out that we are now in official talks Benfica and Ramos. Yeah, the news kind of coming out now and breaking today, and this news has literally come out in the last hour, people. This is fresh news, right as you're getting it. You know, this is United, actually going in talks with Goncalo Ramos, etc., etc. Richard said, I'm not taking any more takeover bait until Sky Sports News come out with the rest of the info is misleading. And I understand Richard's point of view. I'm fed up of talking about the takeover because every time I do a video on the takeover, I have to say to you, this report is saying this, but remember, this report said this, and this report said this, and this report said this, etc., etc. I mean, even Sky isn't totally reliable with the takeover at the moment because Sky can only recite what the journalists are telling them. But what the journalists are telling them, whether they're a good journalist or not, you don't know if it's true. And I get everyone's frustration with the takeover process. I'm fed up with it because one minute I'm getting told Sir Jim Ratcliffe's the preferred bidder. The next minute we're getting told that Qatar are going to be picked as the preferred bidder. In fact, we just have to wait for it to happen. The better journalists are going towards Sir Jim. I will say that. And they are the better, more credible journalists reporting Sir Jim are leading the race compared to the ones reporting that Qatar are leading the race. But, you know, the non-disclosure agreements have been signed. We don't know what's true and what's not true. But I will say with the takeover, I will get into Alex Turk's story. I will get into the Qatar news in just a second. But it's incredibly frustrating because I think no one really knows in the media as well. I have to say, but I would 100% keep an eye on Goncalo Ramos as well. We should have got Kane years ago, says Gaz. We should have. We were linked to him a while ago. Compared to Ostenham or Kane, Goncalo Ramos seems much more raw in terms of his skill set compared to those when I watch him. And I agree with Alex. I like Goncalo Ramos. I think he's a young player. I think value for money. He could be the best long term. But I think we're at a point now where we need a striker that is ready now. Now, I think Goncalo Ramos is pretty developed, and I think he's a good striker. But I think we are, and the only downside with Goncalo Ramos is, you know, that Kane and Ostenham get a mad amount of goals. You know, they come in and they score. You know, Goncalo Ramos is a bit more of a risk. And, you know, when you see that, you know, Bruno's creating the most chances and Man United created the third most chances in the league all season, but they're 16th for conversion, you know that we need a striker. But it's not like we can take that risk on a young striker. Like, I like Rasmus Højlund and Evan Ferguson, but I've been saying with them, they're not ready yet. You know, I wouldn't, if we had a top striker, I would invest in these guys because if, let's say we had Kane at United, he'd be aging soon. But I said, you know, United are in that position where they actually need a striker that they know can fire now. And is Goncalo Ramos that guy? Can Goncalo Ramos fire now for Manchester United? I mean, he's got incredible stats, and we saw him, you know, didn't he get 4 goals at the World Cup? You know, he was incredible at the World Cup. And look, Núñez is doing an all right job at Liverpool, but it's like Núñez, youngish player coming from, you know, what's it called? Liga NOS. Forgot the name of the league for a second. But obviously, Goncalo Ramos has had an incredible season. 25 goals and 11 assists in 44 games, 36 goal contributions in 3,200 minutes. So he gets a goal contribution a game, 3 goals and 3 assists in the Champions League. Obviously, qualifies. He ounced through that. 17 goals in 27 games, of course, in Liga Portugal. Played as a centre forward all of those games. Been very, very good. You know, he's obviously got goals against the likes of Juventus, Maccabi Haifa, Club Brugge. Again, against the top sides, not been getting the goals as much. But as you can see, he has dried up the last few games, not quite getting the goals here. You know, if he's 50, 60 million, I think, you know what, this is a good deal. But it is true. It is true. I mean, he did get, was it 4 goals for Portugal in the World Cup? What do they have the World Cup statistics here? I mean, he played for Portugal in the World Cup and got 4 goals, but he is a very good player, Goncalo Ramos. But I do agree in the sense of I like the guy. He's 21 years of age. I think he's an absolute baller. I think he will be a top player, but I think it is such a risk. You know, Harry Kane comes in, and you know, Harry Kane scores like 20 goals. I mean, Harry Kane has 26 goals this season, and this is literally what I was looking for. Bruno Fernandes, first for chances created, first for expected assists, first for shot creating actions. Goal creating actions, he's ranked 30th, and assists, he's ranked 36th. Give this man a proper number 9. And, you know, this is what I'm saying. You know, I think, you know, it's so obvious that United need a striker, but we need a striker we know that's going to convert. Because if Bruno Fernandes is ranking first for expected assists and first for chances created and first for shot creating actions, but actually he's only ranked 30th for goals and 36th for assists, despite his stats placing him first, it just tells you everything you need to know. United need a proper number 9 because a proper number 9 comes in and scores. And I like Goncalo Ramos, and I think he could be that guy. But I do think Kane and Ostenham are an absolute level above him. But, you know, I think Bruno Fernandes this season has gone by incredibly underrated. I think Bruno has had a phenomenal season. Ferguson looks promising. The thing about Evan Ferguson is, if we could sign Kane and Evan Ferguson, you've got the perfect duo. If you can sign Kane, if you can get rid of Martial and Weghorst and sign Kane and Goncalo Ramos, you've got the perfect duo. I think Goncalo Ramos is like the Julian Alvarez, good guy, young, good stats in a weaker league, but is he ready for the Premier League yet? I think that's the question as well. I would prefer Ramos, young, hungry, and ready to go to the next level. Benfica, famous for also creating young talent, which is true. I mean, let me know what you think. If we sign Goncalo Ramos, I'd be very happy with it. I'm all for United signing Goncalo Ramos. I really like Goncalo Ramos, and I think he will score goals, and I think he will be a success. The only thing I hold back is Harry Kane and Victor Osimhen. I think they come in and they score 20-odd goals. I mean, Goncalo Ramos could get 10, but I don't know if and I think he's capable of being a 20-goal striker, but he's 21. He might not be a 20-goal striker to 24, 25. Do you know what I mean? As well. I bet the Glazers will wait to the last home game of the season before they make any announcement. The thing is, the longer, and I'm going to say this with the takeover because I'm going to dive into some takeover story in just a second. The longer and longer, bloody hell, the thunder's loud. I don't know if you can hear that. It's probably I'm talking loud, so it's fun. But the longer and longer the Glazers wait with this takeover, the preferred bid is meant to be announced this week. Will it be announced? I'm not sure. It makes me scared. The longer and longer the Glazers wait to announce it makes me scared, because the Glazers know there'll be outrage if Jim Ratcliffe is the next owner. So if they delay that outrage to past the last game of the season, they know they can avoid that kind of protest. And they know that, if there's going to be outrage, they do delay those things, etc., etc. I wouldn't be shocked, okay? I wouldn't be shocked. And, clip this actually, if you want, because we might have to come back to this. But if Manchester United get top 4 sealed, second last game of the season, next day Jim Ratcliffe will be announced. I tell you that now. If it is Jim Ratcliffe, they'll be waiting to announce it at a good time, and they might have to wait a while for a good time. They could announce Qatar whenever. If it is Jim Ratcliffe, I generally believe that if we get top 4, the day we get top 4 sealed, they would announce Jim Ratcliffe that night or that next day. Because we don't get top 4, they know there's going to be outrage, and they maybe they would wait a little bit. But if there is top 4, they know the mood's good, the Champions League's good. They know that is the right time to announce the takeover if Jim Ratcliffe's involved. And I do think with the delay, I think if it's Jim Ratcliffe, they'll wait for a good time to announce that. They always do. That is how the Glazers work. That is how the Glazers think. Rather go for a striker like Ferguson or Højlund, he'd be much better bargain. I mean, guys, let me know in the chat. Are you more of a Kane, Ostenham guy, or are you more of a Ferguson, Højlund, Goncalo Ramos guy? Someone under 21 or someone in their late 20s? What kind of mood are you for a striker? I mean, I'm happy with all of them. But I think I just know that Kane and Ostenham are in their prime, and I think we're at a point where we need someone in our prime. But I think Goncalo Ramos, I would be very happy if we signed him. I'd be very, very happy if we signed Goncalo Ramos. But Scott says 17 goals and 27 matches for Portugal isn't 70 million worth. It is a bit pricey. I think it's 50 million player, in my opinion. But I think it's because of his age, being age 21. I also think he's a lot more than goals when you watch him play. He's quite a good all-round player as well. It's all PR and clickbaiting. The worrying thing is a lot of this takeover news is clickbait. I'll be honest, the media, I do think the media clickbait us. The media need a story. They need something to talk about with United. They know that none of the transfer news is realistic right yet because we haven't got the takeover sorted. And I do think the media are clickbaiting us a lot with this takeover stories as well. There is a limit for this transfer period of like 150 million before any sales isn't there. Would be good to be smart with money. Hopefully Ten Hag sees some eyes to buy around. And I think that's why United have been linked with names like Ork and Cuckoo. I think United, would like Harry Kane, but I think, I wouldn't be surprised if we look at an Enzo Laffi for 20 million euros or an Ork and Cuckoo for 20 million euros in midfield, rather than, going out for a McAllister or a Moises Caicedo or a Declan Rice. McAllister, Moises Caicedo, Declan Rice, it's all around that 80 million pound mark. Frankie de Jong's around that 80 million pound mark. If you're United, you've got to look at someone like Enzo Laffi, maybe Lavia with Southampton going down as well. I think Lavia would be a really good deal as well. I think that's something that United should look at. I think he, good Casemiro backup. Was he 19, 20 years of age? Could really bring something in there as well. He's a young and very talented Portuguese. Should link up with other Portuguese players like Dilo Fernandes. He's also got good height of 6'1" for crosses and set pieces. Yeah, I think Goncalo Ramos has got everything in him to adapt at the top level. The question is he Premier League ready yet? I think he could do a good job in the Premier League, but he's not Kane and Ostenham level. But I do think he's got potential to be that level as well. But yeah, continuing on. A lot of people talking about Vlahovic. He might be available for quite cheap with Juventus's issues. And he has dropped off a bit this season. Vlahovic hasn't been that good this season, I will be honest with you. But I do think he would thrive under Ten Hag as well. Ferguson and Højlund, best young strikers out there. I mean, they are very good young strikers out there. And Sir Jim Ratcliffe and Glazers out. Yeah, smash that like button if you want the Glazers out people as well. I like Ramos because of the age. He's 21 and still has lots of times left to play. And I don't want top 4 if that means Glazers stays as Gaz. I mean, I would sacrifice top 4 if it meant Qatar. I do think that where we finish in the league doesn't affect the takeover at all. Kane and Ramos with the Sheikh. I mean, look, I tell you what, ideal transfer window. If I was like FIFA, I'd be getting the Sheikh Jassim in, I'll be getting Kane, I'll be getting Ramos in, I'll be getting Frankie de Jong, I'll be getting Lavia of Southampton, I'll be getting James Maddison, I'll be getting Kim Min-jae, I'll be getting Timber, I'll be getting Frimpong, I'll be getting Diogo Costa. Unfortunately, it's not quite like FIFA. I'm just going to grab my water bottle. Why are you over here, you silly water bottle? I just have a sip of this because my mouth has gone all dry because I want to get into that takeover story about the Express in just a second as well. So let me get the takeover story up. I'm a little bit behind on the live chat, so let me just scroll down, make sure I missed a super chat or anything. Osimhen, Højlund, Ferguson have just signed new contracts, so we can go back next season if it doesn't go if he does well. And this is a good point from Paul. I think with players like Højlund and a lot of other players, you know, like young players, I think you got to maybe look at them next summer. If you can get Kane now, because you can only afford one striker, then you know that Martial's got to go and we need another striker. You look at Ferguson next season. I think people like Moises Caicedo and Ferguson, because of their new contracts, look at them next summer. Højlund would want to go to United badly. I think Højlund would do another year at Atlanta if it meant he could go to United year after as well. I do think next summer we'll also be looking at a young striker. 101 likes, so let's go for 300 likes, guys. So smash that like button if you are Glazers out. So what really came out in the takeover, because we are 15 minutes into the live stream, and I've not completely got into the takeover news. I'll get officially like the main bit of info that said that. Obviously, it was said that Sheikh Jassim's Qatari bid to complete a Manchester United takeover is being touted as the Glazers' preferred option. So it's basically saying that Sheikh Jassim's bid right now, the report coming out today, is that Sheikh Jassim's bid is, you know, being touted as the Glazers' preferred option. And that is the report coming out from Alex Turk, basically saying, and there's a couple other sources saying this, that actually, despite news, Sheikh Jassim's bid is sort of being looked at as the preferred option. The Express said exclusive, Qatar tipped as Glazers' preferred Man United bidder with deal timeline on track. So the news report coming out from the Express is that Qatar are tipped as preferred bidder. Now, I will actually tell you what the article reads. I've just clicked on it myself, but it won't come up on your tab, which is annoying. But it said Man United takeover, Glazers tipped, Qatar tipped as Glazers' preferred bidder with deal on timeline. It said exclusive, Sheikh Jassim's Qatari bid to complete Manchester United takeover has been touted as the Glazers' preferred option over Sir Jim Ratcliffe and Ineos. Now, this was said by Alex Turk. So saying again, you know, that actually, you know, the report coming out is, from what he is hearing, is that Sheikh Jassim's Qatari bid has been touted as the Glazers' preferred option. We know a preferred bid is going to be named this week. They're reporting that what they're hearing is that actually Qatar is likely to be that preferred option. It was said in the report that Sheikh Jassim bin Hamad Al Thani's bid to complete a Manchester United takeover has been backed by the Glazers as their preferred option. The process has entered the business end, with Sir Jim and Ineos posing as Sheikh Jassim's main rivals to take control at Old Trafford. The Qatari bankers' proposal for a full takeover would eclipse the 5.8 billion record deal for NFL team, and it actually, although it's not at the Glazers' valuation of 6 billion, it is over 5 billion, and the Glazers would be willing to accept that. It was said Ratcliffe's Ineos bid just involves him buying 50% of United and therefore inheriting control, which would allow Joe and Abrahams to stay at the club but would not control over decisions, only having 20%. Now, it was obviously said, again, another report saying that sports finance expert, blah, 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 believes the American owners will be tempted to accept Sheikh Jassim's deal because of fan outrage, blah, blah, blah. It is the same guy who's, you know, saying this and saying that, and he's saying, you know, it is some kind of professor saying, you know, Qatar set to be named as a preferred bidder because this and that. And the problem is, you know, does he have a source? Does he have a source? And I will be critical of this news. You know, I will be critical of this news, and I will say you have to take it with a pinch of salt. And I think every takeover story, I'll be honest with you, you have to take a pinch of salt with, because I think we do get clickbaited by the media. I think, you know, people write good stories and they get good information, but, you know, there's non-disclosure agreements. Every information that comes out for a reason, and it could be part of the Glazers game. But the news is very much a professor kind of talking about why Qatar is tipped to be the preferred bidder and why he believes the Glazers will pick Qatar as preferred bidder. There's not a source to say, you know, actually, I've been told from this source that's really reliable that the Glazers are going to pick Qatar as preferred bidder. It's not a source. It's very much an intelligent man making some guesswork of a bit of information that he knows. So it's very much known that, I mean, and I think that's what all the reports really are, is a lot of the reports are guesswork. People know bits of the story and they conclude what they think the Glazers will do. So although there are reports coming out saying that Qatar tipped as preferred bidder, when you really dive into reports, it's a lot of it is opinion based from what people have been reading. No, I don't think really a lot of people have a lot of information out there. And I think that's something to keep an eye on. You know, there are reports that Qatar are the preferred bidder, but you just have to keep an eye on it. You have to keep an eye on it. Spells said these sources are just trying to make a name for themselves. People must be stupid to regurgitate this shit. Glazers haven't made a statement yet and haven't informed the stock exchange. Well, I get what you mean to an extent. I think that we are getting clickbaited and played by the media, and I think a lot of people just want to, you know, use this to, you know, try and take an advantage out of it, etc., etc. But I do think sources are being told news. And I think the problem is, I think the Glazers are letting the news that they want be leaked to the kind of, I think the news, because of the non-disclosure agreements, is heavily controlled by United. So they're kind of being told things that might not necessarily be true. They might be just saying information that the Glazers want to come out as part of the negotiation game. I do think we are in somewhat sense being played with by the media with this takeover. You know, I do think there are some credible news outlets out there and some good stories reporting it. And I think Mike Keegan's done an excellent job specifically with this takeover news. But it's so hard because I do think we do get played around in the media a little bit. People just desperate to, you know, do this and that. But I do think the Glazers have been doing things behind closed doors that we don't know about. I do think they're probably closer to making a decision than we think. Jassim has been in the UK all weekend as well for the coronation and talking over the buying of United. British government back him and do not want Jim in England or buying English club ever, says Nick. So yeah, Nick, you've been saying about, and you and a couple of people have been saying to me that, you know, Sheikh Jassim is in England and he's been in England a while. I haven't read anywhere that Sheikh Jassim has been in England, but a lot of people are telling me actually that reportedly Sheikh Jassim is in England and he's sorting things out as well, which is something to keep an eye on because obviously no one super reliable has reported that. But if Sheikh Jassim is in England, he could be here to directly try and get some contact with the Glazers or the Rain Group or those at Manchester United, because to try and get that deal over the line, because we are finally in those final stages of the takeover. We are in those really important stages of the takeover where hopefully it will come to an end soon as well. It's so unfortunate for our club that we don't have a single striker in the team. So Alex Ferguson's team used to have 4 strikers: Cole, York, Sheringham and Ollie. It's crazy. It's crazy. Like, I like Martial, but yeah, he's not quite it as well. And trouble with waiting on some of these players is that they either explode onto the scene and become too expensive, or a team with better scouting snatches them up first. And this is what I wanted to talk about. You know what really annoys me about the takeover isn't just how long this takeover process is dragged on, but what's really wound me up about this takeover is the longer you wait to sign players, the better players get scouted, the bargains get scouted. The longer you wait, you know, the price goes up. We could have got Anthony for 45 million. Now, Anthony for 45 million would be good business. Anthony for 80 million isn't good business. We've got Malacia early. 12 million for Malacia? Good backup left back. You know, I think that Malacia is a solid player. 12 million, boom. We've got Ericsson as our second signing done. Ericsson was what, 3? Boom. Well, Ericsson would have been 3 anyway, to be honest. You know, Lisandro Martinez, you know, would have been about 35 million. We did take our time. He did go up to about 45 million plus 50 million with add-ons, but it was still a decent deal. If United, you know, the problem is, you know, United have got Goncalo Ramos, Osimhen and Kane on their shortlist. And, you know, all of a sudden, Kane might decide, actually, I'm going to stay at Spurs because he's a stupid idiot. Or Kane might go to Bayern because, you know, Daniel Levy would want to sell him to Bayern and not United. Let's say Kane goes to Bayern, and then Benzema's getting old, and, you know, Goncalo Ramos goes to Real Madrid, and then Chelsea go and spend a load of money on Victor Osimhen, you know, and United finally sort out the takeover, but, you know, Kane, Osimhen and Goncalo Ramos have gone. Who do United go for? Ooh, I mean, there's Vlahovic, but he's not had a good season, Vlahovic, to be honest. There's Sesko, but is he ready? There's Højlund, but is he ready? There's Evan Ferguson, he's just on a new contract, he ain't going anywhere. You know, maybe Ivan Toney, he's a Liverpool fan. Maybe Tammy Abraham, but he was a Chelsea flop. You know, that is the problem. You take time on the takeover, and that's what happens. You know, Bellingham's gone. I'm happy you went to Real Madrid. I think that was the best thing you could do. McAllister's gone, and I don't think United should have spent 7 million on McAllister, and he'll go to Liverpool. I mean, it's not happened yet, but I think it will happen. And I'm not overly bothered about that. But then when you look at it, well, De Jong ain't going to happen. Bellingham's gone to Real Madrid, and McAllister's gone to Liverpool, and they were the 3 players. They generally were the 3 midfielders United have been linked with the most. Moises Caicedo's just signed a new deal, so he ain't going anywhere. Who do United sign in midfield this summer? Gravenberch? Ooh, but actually, that's a difficult one. You know, Bayern will say, get Sabitzer. We don't want to sell Gravenberch. You know, who else do we look for getting in midfield? Enzo Lafy? Well, he's 20 million bargain. By the time we sort out this takeover, I'm sure some club with brains would have snapped up Enzo Lafy. Max and Kakare, I'm sure some clubs with brains would have snapped him up. Maybe we get that Coney guy in the Bundesliga. But he's Bundesliga. Is he good enough for United? Is that the midfielder that Ten Hag wants? Are we getting someone because they're Ten Hag's 5th choice now? You know, that is the problem as well. You know, I think James Maddison would be good. I think Declan Rice would be good, but will they be snapped up? The other teams are looking at them. And that's the problem with the takeover. You know that United want these players, but actually when 1, 2 or 3 of these players in this position get snapped up, you're going into Ten Hag's 4th and 5th choice players. And actually, does Ten Hag want this player? That's the question. And if you start to get players that you don't know Ten Hag wants, then that is when the rebuild really stalls. And I think the takeover really is damaging Ten Hag's summer, because this is not only a massive summer because it's his second season, but this is a massive summer because Ten Hag knows he needs to get rid of a lot of players, and he knows he needs to bring a lot of players in. Ten Hag wants a new goalkeeper, he wants 2 new midfielders, he wants a striker, he wants a new centre-back and potentially a new right-back. Ten Hag's listed Eric Bailly to go. Ten Hag's listed, Tellez to go. Maguire's up for sale. McTominay could be sold. Dean Henderson potentially sold. People like Brandon Williams, Phil Jones will go as well. Ten Hag's listed a lot of players up for sale. Doesn't want a lot of players. He wants 10 out. He wants 5 in. But you're not going to be able to do that in 1 month. Even with Qatar in, it will be a crazy window. Even reports that Jadon Sancho could go. Would we have to replace Jadon Sancho, even though he's not been particularly good? And we've got Ahmad coming back. Would you have to replace Jadon Sancho? I think there's so many questions when it comes to the transfer window and this takeover delaying things. Like, I look at United and I think, well, wingers is good. You've got Rashford, Garnacho, Sancho that can play left wing, Martial if need be. You've got Amad Diallo, Anthony, and Sancho that can play right wing. I think Amad Diallo is going to thrive under Ten Hag. I'd send Pelestri out on loan. You've got Rashford that can play striker. You've got Martial that can play striker. But if you sign that big fat striker like Harry Kane, that is your striker. You've got Bruno that can play 10. I mean, potentially, I wouldn't actually bring Sabitzer on a permanent unless he's cheap as chips. Potentially Sabitzer that can play 10. Eriksen that can play 10. But, maybe a Maddison. Less than likely to go down now. Spill 40 million. Spill 40 million on Maddison. That could be some good business. I think, and then you go, well, we've got Maddison sorted. That's a good attack line. But, obviously, as well as a striker, we need a midfield. We've got Fred and Eriksen who play in that second role next to Casemiro, but are they quite good enough? Obviously, De Jong would be ideal, but that's probably not going to happen. So you need someone else to go in that second midfield role next to Casemiro. But not only do we need someone to play next to Casemiro, we need backup to Casemiro. I think, really, Man United need Moises Caicedo, Enzo Lafay, and James Maddison in the midfield this summer, on top of Harry Kane, on top of a Kim Min-jae or a Jurian Timber to enforce the defence, on top of a goalkeeper. Do we have the FFP funds to do that? Probably not. Will we be able to do that in such a short period because the takeover is being delayed? Probably not. To do that, we're going to sell a lot of players. With the high wages put on, will it be easy for United to sell players? We want Maguire sold. We want McTominay sold. We probably potentially even want David De Gea sold. But, United make this difficult as well. I am a little bit behind on the live chat, people, so please do smash that like button. Of course, subscribe down below as well. Victor Osimhen's the right person for 10 Hag squad. Those 2 chances Martial got an extra time, or stoppage time, versus West Ham, Osimhen would have scored them. Osimhen would have scored them both as well. There's no such things as leaks here. Range reputation is on the line. Even if there is any leak, it would be the same for all the journalists, not completely different. There are leaks going on at the Rain Group, but it's more Glazer briefing. There's a number of journalists that are in the United loop that go to United press conferences. The Samuel Luckhursts, the Jamie Jacksons, they're all in United's little circle. And when there's a leak, they all start corroborating similar information. And that there was a leak. There was a leak last weekend saying that Sir Jim Ratcliffes was in pole position, because every single journalist that was reporting that was people that are in United's circle that get briefed by United to put out stuff as well. The stock exchange in New York has risen today. I mean, the stock exchange rising. You know when it's Glazers or Qatar, because as soon as there's talk of Qatar, stock price of United rises. As soon as there's talk of Sir Jim, absolutely sinks as well. I'm just going to scroll down a little bit so I'm not too far behind. De Gea has not signed that new contract yet. A lot of people's talking about Ivan Toney to United. I think Ivan Toney's a top player, to be fair, and I wouldn't say no to him at United as well. This takeover process has us at an absolute standstill at every level, especially in the transfer market. And I think that, as I said, I think the worst thing about this takeover is, well, United, we see from West Ham, we see from Brighton, this squad, they've had a good season, but they've got a lot of flaws. They're not ready. There's a lot of stuff to do in the summer. And the worst thing about this takeover process is we can't get on with this summer until this takeover is wrapped up. The owners have collectively taken a stand to reduce prices as they are crazy and teams could not afford. I mean, I just think I don't quite get what you mean by that, but I just think the Man United owners are just Glazers. The Glazers don't care about Ten Hag. They don't care about Ten Hag's summer plans. They don't care about what Ten Hag wants to do. The Glazers like they always do, suck the life out of everything. This takeover is meant to be exciting. It was exciting. It drags on. Frankie de Jong saga was meant to be exciting. It wasn't exciting. You know, the Jadon Sancho saga, it's exciting for a week, it's not exciting. When United get linked to a player, it's not exciting because we get linked to that player for 2 months before we get him. It's like Manchester City get linked to a player, they sign and bish bash bosh, they can get excited. United just becomes this process of we're linked to a player, actually we're getting him, actually we're not getting him. Loads of different media reports over a 2-month period. United negotiate for this player. Oh, finally they sign the player, but you're just relieved, you're not excited. And I feel like this takeover process, when it ends, if it is Qatar, I will be excited, but a lot of it will be a relief. Thank God this is over. Thank God I don't have to say this, and this every day as well. Which will the Qatar bid be successful? I couldn't tell you. I don't think anyone knows which bid's going to be successful. Some reports are saying that Qatar's bid is most likely to be successful and Qatar tipped to be the preferred bidder, as today's report. But they haven't got any sources. They haven't got any sources to say. It's not like these sources can say. Everyone that's putting out information is the feeling at Old Trafford is that Sir Jim Ratcliffes is in pole position because his bid is reportedly higher. Or the feeling is that actually Sheikh Jassim's bid is better and the Glazers want to sell to Sheikh Jassim. But when you read these articles, it's not like they're saying, I spoke to the Rain Group, I spoke to the Glazers, I spoke to someone involved in the takeover process and they said this. No, it's not. No, we don't know where this information comes from. Qatar might put out things saying they're confident. The Glazers might give the Rain Group permission to leak certain details to the media, to the press, because the Glazers will want the press constantly talking about this for attention. But no one knows what is true and what's not true with this takeover process. I'm not saying that Qatar is the preferred bidder, because we've had reports come out that Jim Ratcliffe's the preferred bidder. I've made multiple videos saying Jim Ratcliffe's the preferred bidder. Now we've got reports coming out saying Qatar's is the favourite to be the preferred bidder. We don't know, but a preferred bidder should be picked this week. We've got over 650 people watching, guys, so please do smash that like button if you have not already, and of course subscribe down below to Alice Talks Football if you're new as well. That's what I'm saying. Get Maddison. You know what? Best thing is, I tell you what, if I was looking at the relegation zone, I looked at Leicester, Maddison, Lavia of Southampton, Maddison of Leicester. They are 2 deals I would do. If I was United, Lavia and Maddison could be 60 million combined if those 2 got relegated. 2 midfielders, a creative midfielder, a midfielder that could be back up to Casemiro, and potentially Bruno can play in that deeper role, and Maddison could play more advanced as well. 60 million for those 2 midfielders. But those 2 teams, Leicester and Southampton, if they go down, people are going to be swarming Lavia. People will be all over that. People swarming him. People will be swarming Maddison. If we're too focused on this takeover, 2 weeks into the transfer window, those 2 players could be bish bash bosh gone. And United can't do anything. United can't make a move for them because they haven't got this takeover process sorted. That's a big problem. There could be 2 bargains there, getting relegated at cut prices to boost that midfield. Casemiro backup, creative player, but United might not be able to do anything because of that. Kevin says, big shout out to the women. Let's hope the girls win the cup on Sunday and their Women's Super League bad, at least barring some silly results in their Champions League qualifier. Yeah, big up to the women's team having a really, really good season as well. And Alice, when do you think this takeover madness will end? I mean, I think a preferred bidder will be named in the next week, and I think things will start to advance. If I be honest, June it will come to an end, but I think it will. I think May will. I think by the end of this month we'll know. I think this month we'll kind of know. But I think in terms of an actual end, finalising the deal, I think we're looking end of June. I think our transfer window starts in July, unfortunately. And I think, we won't be bringing many people on pre-season, if anyone. Alex B says, as much as we want it, I don't see the budget to sort everything we need. A window probably just a marquee 9, a quality centre mid and a centre back. I think this summer window will be a number 9, a centre mid and a centre back, because I think Maguire will leave. I think United are seriously looking at Kim Min-jae and Timber. I think United are seriously looking at Kane. And I think United will look to bring in a midfielder. And I think that is what will happen this summer. I think De Gea stays. De Gea stays in goal. I don't think we go for Frimpong as much as he wants to move. I think that Ten Hag might say, actually, centre mid and striker are so important. Maguire goes, we need another centre back, etc., etc. I think that's what we'll look at. I think Timber, Kim Min-jae, Kane, and a midfielder. I couldn't tell you the midfielder is going to be, but I think we'll know more. I think De Jong is the dream, but I don't think it will happen as well. At this point, what is the purpose of the delays? The final offer has been submitted. Just pick one already. And that's what worries me. I think the more and more they delay it, are they delaying it because they know that the decision is going to outrage the fans? Are they delaying it because actually, this is the thing. There's so many ways you can think of it. We don't know. They could be delaying this deal because they know they're going to pick Sir Jim, but they're going to wait for a time where the United fans are happy and they've just won something to announce Sir Jim. So, it doesn't complete an outrage or a protest, or they're delaying it because they put out these reports that Sir Jim's bid is higher, etc., and they're secretly negotiating something directly with Qatar, which was a report that came out, to actually get Qatar to bid higher, and actually something secretly going on with Qatar, and there's non-disclosure agreements, so we don't know. There's so many ways you can look at the takeover and you think, well, this could be happening or this could be happening. But the problem is we just don't know. And I think that is what it makes it so infuriating as well. Sheikh Jassim seems more sincere with the market in the Middle East and Asia. This makes sense business-wise. I mean, Sheikh Jassim's bid is more sincere than Sir Jim Ratcliffe's. It's about Manchester United, the Premier League, the excitement, the love for football. So Jim says, I'm apparently a Man United fan, but I would keep the Glazers here and using it for money. And Man United isn't even making that much money. I don't think it even makes that much sense for Sir Jim to be investing this much and borrowing this much money to get United. Does United make that much money at the moment? No. If Qatar come, all these incompetent people will be fired. Richard, Murtagh, Fletcher, the rest. I do think that as well. I think if Qatar come in, I do think they employ the people. I think they were rumoured to employ those who were at Napoli in their rebuild, winning their first Scudetto in 30 years as well. Someone said Maddison. No, he's a younger than Lingard, one season hit. I mean, I think Maddison's a good deal. I'm not saying spend Maddison. I don't think Maddison should be the only midfielder we sign, but if we sign two midfielders, I'd like one of them to be Maddison as well. Daniel says, I can't stand why West Ham would price Rice at under 20 million. I don't think he's worth that much, but I love him and don't want him to go. I think Declan Rice, a fair price would be 80 million. I think he's young. He's an exceptional player. He's English. He will have that price exemption, but I think 80 million just with the position West Ham are in and other teams winning Champions League and the contract running down. I think 120 million is absurd. But I think Declan Rice is a phenomenal player. And we saw that. We have Casemiro, Bruno, and Ericsson on the pitch, who are all top quality midfielders. But the best midfielder by a country mile when we played West Ham was Declan Rice. Say what you want about Declan Rice, but he showed Casemiro, Bruno, and Ericsson levels when we played West Ham. He was the best midfielder on the pitch. That West Ham player, Declan Rice, was we have three quality midfielders, and Declan Rice schooled them. He's a phenomenal player, Declan Rice, and I hope he stays at West Ham because I worry he'd really strengthen Arsenal. Games are won and lost in midfield. Arsenal get that third midfielder. If Arsenal get that third midfielder in and a striker that's more clinical, Arsenal levels ahead of us. Man City already levels ahead of us. They might be losing players like Gundogan and Bernardo Silva, but Man City will replace them. Liverpool, I think, will be back next season. We need to sort ourselves out this summer. We really do. I think Chelsea won't be as awful next season as well. Even if Qatar takes over, it'll be 2 to 3 windows to change our fortune and create harmony. I do think with Qatar, it would be summer, January, next summer. I think if we got Qatar this summer, I think next summer would be that window where we could push on as well. Alice, do you believe that Qatar will buy United? Honestly, I was 80-20 for Qatar to win, and then the Sir Jim Ratcliffe news came out, and I was 80-20 for Sir Jim to win. I have a feeling if I was going to put money on it, and I wouldn't because I'm not certain, I would put money on Sir Jim being named as preferred bidder just because of his option to keep the Glazers here and reportedly his bid's a higher valuation per share. But we don't know where that news really originated from. We don't know how true that news is. So if I was going to put money on someone, I would still say that I think Sir Jim is likely to be named as the preferred bidder, but I'm not confident with that. It's like a 60-40. If let's say, I don't know, let's say Aston Villa were playing Brentford tonight, or Villa tonight. No, Aston Villa were playing Brighton tonight. Let's say Aston Villa were playing Brighton tonight. You don't know who's going to win because Villa are in a good position, Brighton in a good position, two solid mid-table teams in a similar position. You don't know who's going to win at Villa and Brighton. Some people might say, I think, look, Villa, other than the Man United game, and the Wolves game, actually, they've actually got the third most amount of points in 2023. You could say Brighton, phenomenal club, just beat United 1-0. Obviously, they just got pumped by Everton. But let's say they didn't play Everton. This week, let's say this week if Villa and Brighton were playing, who do you put your bid on? Who do you put your money on? If you're doing a bet and one of them's going to win, you probably go for a draw, really. But that's like Qatar and Sir Jim. I think that I would put my money on Sir Jim if I was going to have to guess who the next owner would be. But I couldn't say that with much certainty yet because I really don't know. And we get so many stories coming out by the media, and I report all these stories. And me, I've literally been talking about the takeover nearly every day since November. It's driving my nutcase in. Honestly, I've been following literally every story on this takeover. I follow every story. I read up every bit of information on this takeover, but I still couldn't tell you who's going to be that preferred bidder because I don't think people know. Lavia has a 40 million buyback to City, so assuming he doesn't want to go back, we have to likely outbid that. That is a thing that he did. I completely forgot. True. I think as well with Gundogan potentially leaving City, I think City could trigger that actually, which is one to watch out for as well. Jim just wants the prestige of being a Man United owner, but doesn't intend to take us to the top. And that's what I feel about Jim Ratcliffe. I do think, why is he buying it out from a business perspective? Does it make sense? Does he just want the attention that comes with it? I think that. Jim is a fraud, says Gaz. Lavia buyback for City is next summer. Oh, it's next summer. Well, I think we're going to have to swoop on him this summer then as well. McAllister's a good shot. I like McAllister, but I wouldn't spend 80 million on McAllister because, yes, he's a decent midfielder, but I rate Casado more than him. I wouldn't spend 80 million on McAllister. I'd let him go to Liverpool. I think he'd be a good signing for Liverpool, and I think him and Trent would work really well. But, yeah, no, I'm not too bothered about that. He had the advantage of not playing next to Rashford and Anthony. Who's this? I think Rashford and Anthony are good wingers. I do think there's things that need to be worked on with Rashford and Anthony, but I think they're good wingers. But I think, playing with Bruno is a gift to any striker as well. Relax, Alice. Qatar will win the bid. It's all down to money. That's all. And look, I think it is all down to money. And I think while Sir Jim's valuation is reportedly higher, Qatar can go higher than Sir Jim ever can. And if Qatar is determined to buy United, as what's being reported, then I do think Qatar will go down to the wire and bid what they need. No matter how hard leaving Man United as a fan is, I will try if Sir Jim wins because this club will continue being a circus and feeding the frenzy to two Glazer brothers. Yeah, I mean, we just want the Glazers out. All we want is the Glazers out as well. Garnacho needs a loan at least. He's at Martinelli. He's a Martinelli from Wish. Are you an Arsenal fan? I think Garnacho is a quality player, and I think we've absolutely missed him. If I'm being honest with you, we have to question the fact that Sir Jim's bids $3 billion this year, and to get rid of the Glazers in 2 years, it's $2.5 billion for the two other Glazers. Where's that money coming from? Why not 5.5 now? That money will come from the money he makes at United and the money the club generates, and he'll put that down on the club. That's the worrying thing. That's where that money will come from. I'm just going to make sure there's no more news stories floating about. Just see if any news has come out while I'm here, while I'm live. United have created 72 big chances in the Premier League, more than Arsenal, but they scored 34 fewer goals. Harry Kane, Victor Osimhen, Goncalo Ramos, just anyone but Weghorst. Honestly, I'm just anyone but Weghorst. Sign a striker, please. I mean, when we sign a striker, I think we're going to go up another level. Going to attack. Have Man United blocked me? No, they haven't. I was going to say. Harry Kane, Victor Osimhen, Goncalo Ramos, anyone but Weghorst. Sign a striker, please. At United. This is what I've been talking about. The amount of chances we've created. Imagine the levels United go to if they sign a top striker. Just imagine the levels. Imagine the levels, people. As well. Weghorst is an 8. I mean, Weghorst isn't even an 8. I think he's so bad. I think Weghorst is so bad at striker that Ten Hag's like, I'll play him as an 8. But then you play Bruno out of position, Ten Hag. Sheikh Jassim will get United. He will not lose face no matter what the cost, says Stephen. Hopefully, I mean, that is what's been reported by Sky. Sky, one of the journalists who went on Sky, and I'm not Sky generally reporting this, but a journalist that went on Sky said that Sheikh Jassim is too invested in United. He'd see it as embarrassing to miss out on United. They've got the capabilities to buy United. They'll go all out to buy United. I think United still needs open heart surgery, as Ralph put it. Too many players who don't understand what it means to play for the club. Every team goes harder against United. We need worries. I agree. I think, that I said, and I tweeted this earlier, Manchester United players are knackered. We've had a lot of injuries, but the Brighton and West Ham game, there's no excuses for that. Yes, we were tired, and I give them that. But there was a mentality issue, and some of these players need to realise that when you play for United, when you put the United shirt on, you've got to fight week in, week out. 225 likes. Let's push for 300 likes. We've got 600 people watching, so if half of you guys slap that like button right now, we can hit the 300 like target. If your Glazers out, smash that like button. Let's go for 300 likes. Hopefully we can hit it now. And also, if you've just tuned into the live stream and you are new, do go ahead and subscribe down below to Alice Talks Football. Would really appreciate it. I go live every single evening on the channel, keeping you guys up to date with all the latest news as well. And Weghorst should become a long distance runner. All I see him do on the pitch is Alex, and he's probably spot on with that as well. David signed a new deal. Has he actually? David has agreed the framework of a new contract with a lower salary and incentives for match played, negotiated, and is expected to be signed off by United announcement this week. So yeah, De Gea on the verge of signing a new deal, it seems, with United. So a lot of people aren't going to be particularly happy about that as well. It says new Manchester United are plotting to sign Harry Kane and Goncalo Ramos in the summer in an attacking revolution. United prepared to spend heavily with Sheikh Jassim or Sir Jim Ratcliffes. Now, just to let you know, this is written by the Mirror. Mirror's a bit shit. I don't know who it's written by. It doesn't say who it's written by the Mirror. There are people for the Mirror that are good, but if this is, he's not saying who, so I would take that with a pinch of salt. But again, report coming out, United plotting to sign. I tell you what, if we sign both, tell me, we sign both of these guys, we get Lavia on loan, we get Kim and Jae and maybe get the goalkeeper situation sorted, balling. Because I've said multiple times, we create so many chances. We create the most big chances. Which is our conversion rate in the Premier League. Absolutely dreadful this season. Absolutely dreadful it's this season, honestly. Ramos would be so good as well. Ramos would be so good. Kim and Jae, Timber, Gravenberch, Osimhen, Kudus, Frankie de Jong in about 8-10 players out. An ambitious window could be possible. A lot of the Ajax boys being named there. And De Gea signing a contract is a good move. If he is sold now, they can get extra money for him and then lose him on a free, which is true as well. I think the good thing about De Gea signing a contract is he's taking a significant wage cut, which could suggest he could become a second keeper. Maybe one more season as first keeper, then second keeper as well. I mean, it's funny how the news about De Gea signing a new contract comes out after he had an absolute disaster class of a performance as well. United picking a bad time for that. I'll tell you that as well. But, I mean, I'm just looking at all the statistics here. Manchester United need to sign a striker. It's so obvious. And I'm sitting here to this day and I still think, why haven't we signed a top striker? Qatar, reportedly Takeover favourites. Man United need a striker. We need to go and sign a top striker. I said, why haven't we signed a top striker? What I meant is, we need to sign a top striker ASAP. I want us to be in June signing a top striker. That's what I mean. What I'm trying to say is we need to be signing a top striker in June. We need to be getting that top striker in ASAP because that is like a bish bash bosh #1 priority. But United can't do that because they're faffing about on this takeover and it completely winding me up as well. Also, guys, are we all Real Madrid fans tonight? I'm a big Real Madrid fan tonight as well. I think we could only get 2 to 3 signings max in summer, 1 to 2 in January, potentially. It all depends as well. I don't really rate Muani, but United are reportedly looking at him as well. I mean, you guys probably see Muani more than me. I don't know what you think about him. I've never really rated this Muani guy, in all honesty, as well. Hala Madrid, big up Real Madrid tonight. Apparently, Ronaldo wants to go back to Real Madrid, and Real Madrid said they'd want him as an ambassador, but not a player. Messi reportedly going to Saudi Arabia, and then that's not true. This is the thing. I wouldn't be shocked if Messi went to Saudi Arabia because he's got to take a 75% wage reduction to go back to Barcelona. I think Barcelona need to sell a lot of people to bring Messi back. I wouldn't be shocked in the slightest if Lionel Messi went to Saudi Arabia, but they're just saying no for PR and that actually it could be a done deal because they're coming out saying it's not done, but I don't know with Messi in Saudi Arabia. We'll have to wait and see as well. Do I rate Romania, Latvia? Yep, I do. First, we need a striker, then we need a DM, then we need a centre-back. I agree, then we need a goalkeeper. And we lost 2 million lines without replacing them. Cavani, this is Alex is spot on. The problem is, we lost Cavani, we didn't replace him. Greenwood messed up like a twat, and we obviously didn't replace him. We could potentially have replaced him, but we weren't expecting that. Greenwood decided to be a big idiot. We lost Cavani. Ronaldo was not quite Greenwood level idiot, but Ronaldo had a strop and did this interview. So Ronaldo played up. Greenwood was a big idiot. We lost Cavani, and Martial's practically Mr. Breadstick Legs. And the problem is we had all these injuries, all these problems, and United didn't replace them. We basically lost 3 strikers and had Breadstick Legs Martial. And we never bothered to sign one, and that's why we've got a big problem. And luckily, Rashford's been all right as a striker and developed quite well, but absolutely spot on. Alice, come on, Real Madrid as well. Barca need to make 178 million in sales before they can buy anyone. Give us Frankie de Jong, baby. I'd love that, but he doesn't want to come as well. But yeah. Anyway, people, I'm going to wrap up today's live stream because I am hungry and I want some dinner and I've been live for 50 minutes. But I will say, I can't speak today. If you are new, please do subscribe to Alice Talks Football. We're on 61,280 subscribers. We're 20 subscribers away from 61.3K. We're pushing to 70K by September. The goal is 70K by the end of the transfer window. I'm going to be, now I've finished uni assignments. Now I've done a lot of my work. I'm going to be live pretty much every evening on the channel. I've been slacking with the live streams, doing a lot of videos, been slacking with the live streams lately, but I'm going to be live a lot more. So do subscribe for live shows, videos, etc. Got loads coming on the channel, so do subscribe, smash a like on the way out. Hala Madrid. I will see you next time, guys, and bye.